Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Homesteading Grandparents Kitchen. This morning, Nan is going to be sharing her homemade salsa recipe with you all, and I hope y'all enjoy it as much as we do. We garden all of our vegetables, and in the summertime, when we're getting the tomatoes, we will can the tomatoes, or not can them, but we freeze them. We freeze them in the batches that are for the salsa versus just canning them or freezing them for the freezer. And I do use the fresh tomatoes throughout the year and the peppers and stuff, but they essentially go in the salsa because it's a very important accessory around here. Actually, salsa is a staple in our home. We use it all the time. And today we're going to make two batches simultaneously. Our 4 and 5 year old loves paste and chips. Our salsa is way too hot for them, so I have opted to share the big batch with the kids today. They're gonna love it. I'm not gonna do it as spicy for them. Again, I think I mentioned in the past that we're trying to spice up their palate to be able to eat spicy food, and it's a real challenge because they just don't like the spice. So I'll go ahead and get started. We're going to put it, and I double the batch. We're going to put tomatoes, fresh out of the garden, bell peppers, fresh out of the garden, onions, fresh out of the garden. And we're using serrano peppers. The original recipe calls for jalapenos, but we're going to use serranos, and it makes it real hot. And we use 2 cans of tomato paste, 2 cups of vinegar, a half a cup of sugar, and that's really probably too much for me. Phil likes it a little bit sweeter than I do, so I probably won't put as much. It calls for 2 to 3 tablespoons of garlic, and I'm getting low on garlic, so I'll just scrape all that out of there, and that'll make it enough. Salt, cumin, and chili powder. So what we do, we just start dumping all of the ingredients in the pot. It's a really simple recipe. The hardest thing about this recipe is freezing all of the vegetables. It's not easy having 4 kids in the house to do the tomatoes because we blanch them, and in this one bag, this one was 6.5 cups, and I just freeze them as I get them. I can't save the tomatoes and think, oh, I'll just save these for another batch, because some days you get good and some days you don't. Phil's going to be my helper this morning. So the recipe calls for 20 cups of tomatoes, and it will fill this pot up. So it's 20 cups of tomatoes, 5 cups of bell pepper, 5 cups of onion. I'm sorry, I'm lying. 10 cups of bell pepper, 10 cups of onion, 5 cups of jalapenos. In this case, the serranos are so hot, I'm not going to use all 5 because we can't even eat it. They're so hot. The cumin, to me, makes it really good. It gives it that probably Tex-Mex flavor. And of course, we are in South Texas or Gulf Coast, Texas. And whenever you thaw your vegetables out, you get liquid out of them. So I keep it all because that's the yummy goodness. You want to leave that there? Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead. So I just pour everything in. And onions are coming on. Tomatoes are coming on this year. We weren't real sure how all this was going to work out with the freeze that we had, but the onions are looking real good. Phil's got I don't know, how many types of onions do you have planted, Paul Phil?
Just one.
Types.
Yeah, I just have one type of onion. And,
Or tomato, I meant tomato.
Yeah, the onions are the 1013, and then the tomatoes are, I don't know, there's 6 or 8 different.
Yeah, he's got several different varieties that he's doing this year. Okay, I'm going to save that for last because I'm going to have to dip some of that out because I'm not going to use that whole bag. The last batch that we did of salsa is pretty hot. We had to mark on the jar hot, and our lips are burning, our nose is running. Sometimes it's too hot, you just don't get to taste the yummy goodness of it. So all in all, these tomatoes made 20 cups. So in the summertime, it's pretty busy around here. But it's what we like to do. We put a lot of it, we put it all in the freezer, and I would like to learn how to can more and get away from so much freezer space. I haven't been successful with canning the tomatoes. So if y'all have good recipes, please share with me, because I would surely like that. And that's what this is all about, is being a community and sharing ideas of cooking, parenting. Okay, so this was 3 cups in this bag, and I think that's enough.
Wasn't you going to wait for the kids? You weren't going to cook?
Oh, you're right. Gosh dang.
Just scoop it out.
Yeah. I'm going to have to scoop some of this out. Nan's just doing what she always does. It's okay. It's okay. We got it. We got it. Thanks, Paul Phil. He was over there trying to tell me something and I wasn't listening to him as usual. That little bit ain't gonna hurt nothing. Okay, so here goes the vinegar. And the vinegar is what helps it to, it's the preservative. And sugar. As I've heard some people say, sugar. And we'll go ahead and get the fire going. And I'm going to put it on high. Oh, I have it on the wrong burner, don't I? Nan's used to cooking from that side. Paul Phil's over there giving me all kind of signs today, y'all.
I'm working as hard as she is.
He's trying to keep me straight. That's what it's called, teamwork.
That's right.
Teamwork. I think our next swing and swat might be with Popsy, and he calls him Pops, Paul Phil's father. And he will be 90 in October. And I don't know about y'all, but I sure love to hear stories from that day. My parents were much older. When I was born, my mother was 42 and my dad was 51. And my dad would be pretty old, and that era, that age group, always intrigued me. I probably was born in the wrong time frame. However, I guess God knew exactly when I needed to be born. But I just think that time frame is just very interesting. A lot of hard work, a lot of integrity, which we don't see a lot of that anymore. Just the stories, I love hearing them.
How many siblings did you have?
I was born with, there was 8 sisters and 9 brothers, and I made the 9th sister. 9 girls and 9 boys, and I was the youngest. think I was a little bit spoiled? Probably. Ask my siblings, they'll tell you. They'll tell you. Okay, there's that. And then stepping out a second, I forgot to grab my spoon. So it calls for 1 to 2 teaspoons of cumin. I don't always listen to recipes, my own recipe at that. Put a little less than a tablespoon. I kind of concocted this recipe from a couple of other recipes that I saw, and we really like it. And then 1 to 2 tablespoons of chili powder. So I will go with the 2 tablespoons. And I told Paul Phil the other day, I'm gauging making salsa off of how many jars we have in the cabinet. We need to make some room, so we need to make some more salsa. Okay, so I am going to let this cook for a little while and get everything thawed out because the tomatoes are still in chunks in here, and it takes a good while. I like to cook it several hours. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt, and I always come back and check it later and see if I need more. And I'm not going to put the sriracha in it either until I get the kids' batch out so they can enjoy it as well. I might put just a tad in their pot, but I really don't want to mess up their batch because they enjoy it also. So we just let this cook for several hours. You can see what it's looking like, and that just splashed all over me. But it's going to be really good, and the tomatoes are all chopped up. There's not any big chunks of tomato in there. We put everything in our Food Ninja chopper, and that little thing gets used quite a bit in the summertime.
So what process do we use when we bring the tomatoes in from the garden? How do you process them?
I rinse them off and I put them in a big pot. Not this big, because you don't want too many tomatoes in there because they'll get heavy. And then once they start blanching, they'll smush. So you get a thinner pot and put as many as you can in there for maybe 2 layers and fill it with water and blanch them. And we let them go probably about 10 minutes. By the time the water gets hot and boiling, you probably want to only boil them for about 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5. And then we put them in a cold water bath with ice in the sink and let them cool. And then we peel them and put them in a big container like this. And then because it's easier to put them in the bags from that. And we just put them in the freezer. And do
you run them through the Ninja before you freeze them?
I do. Thank you, Paul Phil. I do. I run them through the Ninja before I freeze them. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for the good questions.
What about the peppers? What do we do with the peppers?
I don't blanch those. I just chop them up in the chopper and put them in the freezer. I don't blanch the peppers. I used to, but we have found that you don't have to because we're cooking them anyway, and we don't leave them in the freezer long enough to freezer burn. We eat them pretty quickly because I put peppers, especially bell pepper and onion. And same thing with the onions. I don't blanch those either because you can't blanch an onion. That doesn't make sense. I guess you could, but I don't. But we just chop all the peppers and onions up and bag them. And we bought us a vacuum sealer, and that's what I put the vegetables in for the most part. We had these in baggies. We must have been out of vacuum bags, but we vacuum everything. And you can't use the vacuum, but you seal them, and it keeps the air out of them. I just squish them down and seal them real good. So, can you think of anything else I'm missing?
Well, I think last year we did try to can some tomatoes, and we were successful with that. You had stated earlier that we had not been successful so far, and I think that was a year before last.
That's true. That's true.
We was not successful hardly at all.
Yeah, our jars kept pop. We kept bust. Not the jar didn't bust, but the seals but
kept breaking.
yeah, the seals kept breaking. So, but last year we didn't do that many.
Right.
Because we were afraid to, because we didn't want to lose our product. I mean,
So
that's hard
We're
work.
going to try more. So back to your point, that any ideas that you guys have on canning, we use a pressure canner, and you know we try to follow. I say try. We do follow the directions.
We do follow the directions. Yeah. Good questions, Paul Phil. So I guess we will let this cook, and we'll come back. We'll have our jars ready and ready to jar up the salsa later, and we will walk y'all through those steps as well.
So this part of it takes what, 3 to 4 hours?
Yeah, this will take 3 to 4 hours because I cook it a long time. I cook it on low because I don't want it to stick. So I cook it on low and just let the flavors just really get together in there.
And then you test it for salt content and hot content before we jar it.
Yeah.
And sweet content.
And sweet content. Yeah. And the biggest thing, if you're going to have salsa on the shelf for any period of time, you need the vinegar in there. There are some recipes that you can do in the blender, and if you eat it right away. But if you're going to have them on the shelf, you need the vinegar in there because that's your preservative. That's going to help keep the tomatoes from fermenting. Thank you. I couldn't come up with that word.
Salt, the acid in the tomatoes, and the vinegar.
Yeah.
Of course, vinegar is acid-based, so all of that creates the perfect environment for long-term storage.
Correct.
Without one of those three components, which is what we ran into year before last when they started fermenting on us.
The tomatoes, that is.
We didn't have one of those three components right, and we lost probably half of our.
We did. It was very heartbreaking because we did a lot of them. We canned a lot, and it was very discouraging, to say the least. But you know, you live and learn. It's okay. We're moving forward, and we're going to do it again this year. So y'all hang with us. We'll work through it together, and again, give us ideas. So, and share recipes with us. If y'all have another salsa recipe, let me know what that is. I wouldn't mind trying a different one. We like food, so it really doesn't matter. We'll try it. So until after a while, we'll see y'all later, and don't forget, thumbs up. And I don't think you'll do a thumbs down. Thumbs up, and hit that little like button. We'll see y'all after a while. Bye.
Well, Nan had to go run an errand, but you can see here, got a slow boil, and that's been going about an hour and a half, I think is how long it's been on the fire. So really just started boiling here the last 20 minutes or so. We'll let it slow boil. I think she said 3 hours or so. Normally what happens is the vegetables will sink to the bottom and the juice will be on the top, and that's how she knows when she's cooked it long enough. And then over here we got our jars starting the hot water bath. Get them heated up and sterilized. I think this batch makes the double that she's making will make about 10 quart jars. But we'll get these sterilized and ready for the salsa. So just a slow boil. Smelling good, looking good.
Welcome back, guys. Hope y'all have had a good morning. And we're back in the kitchen. Salsa's still going, but we're going to take the kids' portion out. Like I told y'all we were going to do earlier, we were to separate it out. We just went ahead and finished cooking it in here, and we're just going to pour off their jars. And we had the jars water bathing. We get them hot. We get the lids hot. They're boiling. They're ready to go. And we're going to fill their jars, and then we're going to put them back in the pot to let them water bath some more for about 10 minutes. Just kind of make sure they're sealed and finish cooking off what hadn't cooked in there. And then we're going to add the peppers to our batch and finish that one off as well. So I am just pulling the jars out of the hot water. We like to get them good and hot. It helps make a good seal. Okay. And I am ready to start filling. I'll turn these off. This is the lids. Let me stir this real good and get all the goodies to the top. It's boiling good and it smells good. So we just fill the jars. And this is a little bit messy. You'll get a few pops here and there. A little bit of heat ain't gonna hurt nobody. For long anyway. This little gadget right here, guys, this little thing is wonders for filling jars. It is wonderful. So after I fill the jars, we vinegar clean the lids to make sure all the residue is off of the jars. So we'll clean the rims of the jars and then we'll put the lids on and tighten the rings down. And then, like I said, put them back in the water bath. And then I almost filled that one too full. And then we're going to finish cooking our batch. Okay, here's the vinegar rag. Phil, I hate to bother you, but I can use a spoon. Never mind. Never mind. I got it. So we just see there is some residue on the napkin, and that's why we clean with a vinegar towel just to get all the stuff off. And we feel like that could be another problem if you're not sealing good. That could be another one of your problems.
Nan and I talked about when we had the fail several years ago, 2 years ago, I guess now. And one of the things reflecting back on that, we forgot that we had used lids. And we learned from that always to use new lids when we're
These.
canning.
You can use the same rings, just use new lids.
That was probably our biggest fail on that, was that we tried to reuse lids and be conservative, but that come back and hurt us. The lids lost their seal.
Jars are pretty toasty, so be careful when you're doing this. And I'll get another rag and kind of hold my jar tight so I can put a little pressure down on them. Here we go. Paul feels so smart sometimes. I like the way he thinks. Actually, this is better because I use rags to hold the jar, and the jar tends to slip in that rag. So I'm just going to place them back in here. That's toasty. That's toasty. And the water's already hot. So you want to make sure you don't put a hot jar in cold water, because that would be disaster. The cold jar or a hot jar in cold water would not work very well. So we're just going to let that cook like that for 10 minutes. And I'm going to add peppers in here. And because I took about a quarter of the salsa out, quarter of the pot, I am not going to put a lot of pepper in there. And Pa Phil and I always kind of help each other out how much we think we need. And I'm telling y'all, the last batch we did with the serrano peppers, it was hot. A little bit more. He likes his stuff spicy. Okay, and I had not put sriracha in because I didn't want the kids, I didn't want to give the kids any spice at all. And this is sriracha, if y'all have never seen it. It's got a little rooster on there. And I just, and it's done. And we'll let this cook, we'll let the peppers get done, and then we're gonna jar ours and do exactly what we just did with theirs and water bath them for about 10 minutes and to make sure they're sealed good. We don't want any bad product, so just make sure when you're doing this that your jars are sealed real good. You don't want to have a broken seal because that'll ruin all the hard work. And really, what we did today was really easy because everything was already cooked, everything was already canned. So all we have to do is pour it in the pot. And that's why we do it the way we do when we're freezing vegetables through the summertime. All we gotta do is open and empty. Who don't like that? Open and empty. So anyway, hope y'all like this video. Give it a try. It's really not that hard. You can use canned tomatoes. You can use store-bought stuff from the store. I don't know that I have, so I can't say how it would taste for you, but if you don't know what I have, then you're not going to know if it's any different. Give it a try. Y'all have a good day. Thumbs up. Take care. Bye.